What you're about to see has never actually happened. Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm a Boeing 737 pilot and a member of PMDG's tech team. In today's video, we'll have a first look at the Boeing 737-600. And what else could we choose than flying the Janet 737 from Vegas to Area 51? Janet, just another non-existing terminal. Oh, I have to doubt it. There is a terminal over there. So, the 737-600. Many of you will be like, so what's that plane even for? And that's a good question. The 600 has been designed as a successor to the 737-500, so it is essentially at the length of the 500. And while it initially may look a little bit strange to some of you who are not quite used to seeing the 600 airframe, when you see it on a livery that you actually know, it will very quickly become very familiar. And for example, there is a great Lufthansa livery available. And if you see it on a Lufthansa livery and you know the Lufthansa 500, then all of a sudden it looks like a very proportionate airplane. Alright, so PMDG went ahead and repainted the entire fleet of 737-600s that exist. That includes the Janet aircraft, of course, which is the default PMDG repaint, but also every other airline that's operating it. For example, Scandinavian Airlines has been a great user of the 600, and since there are some great Scandinavian sceneries out there, it is very much recommendable to fly that one. Also, did you know Scandinavian had a head-up display in their 600s? Anyway, let's go back to today. Internally in our beta testing, we loved to call the 600 the pocket rocket because it's small and it has a lot of power. The engines are rated at 22k with D-rate options down to 18k, but it does have a 24k bump option available. And just for the fun of it, today we're actually going to go at the 24k bump with full climb thrust. The flight to Area 51 is a short one, just about 20 minutes, but we'll have a lot to do on that one in. Understandably, I could not find any approach charts, but surprisingly, Area 51 is included in the nav data from Navigraph. So, let's hop over into our flight deck and have a look at the 600 and start our flight. So, the aircraft is fully prepared. Just gotta turn the packs off and we can start our first engine startup here. While we're going through the startup sequence, let me point out a couple of the differences that we are now seeing with the 600. The 737-600 as the primary new feature features PMDG's new lateral flight path module, or new LNAV module. And the new LNAV module basically is completely rewritten from the old one and provides a much improved lateral navigation tracking over the previous module. Now, it does not yet come with radios to fix legs, because that one actually is a database thing and not an LNAV thing. The new LNAV is already fully tested and fully prepared to support RF legs. However, there will have to be a navigational database update that's going to come a couple months later, hopefully. That is going to support the RF legs eventually. So, all of that said, you're going to ask yourself, so why am I actually interested in the 600? And why do you guys release the 600 to include that new LNAV? Well, do not worry. Those of you who are not interested in getting the 600 will very well be able to get it for the 700, because the update for the 700 is actually coming out the very same day. Together with the LNAV update, there are also a lot of changes introduced to the VNAV system in the 737-600, and I'm going to post a separate video on how VNAV actually works in a couple days' time, so watch that one to get the full idea. Now, for this one, I'm actually just going for a couple of the small changes. And the most important one is the way the airplane now decelerates on the arrival, and I will explain that a little bit more when we actually get into it. For now, we do have 2 good engine starts, so let's get ourselves going and fly to that area that I should probably better not even pronounce. So, flight controls, up, down, left, right, right. Alright, and off we go. Got a master caution flight controls here. What's that? Ah, I forgot to turn the yaw damper on. That's it when you have that head-up display right in front of you. Sometimes it becomes difficult to see those systems. So let's do another recall. Alright, here we go. Parking brake is released. Config is checked. And here we go. We are clear on the left, and we are clear on the right. The scenery you see in use here, by the way, is Fly Tampa's excellent Las Vegas scenery. Can really recommend you to check that one out, especially if you want to do some jet operations. So, the 600 does feature the new steering system as well, which I just about messed up on because I did not actually assign any tiller. So, options, you'll find it on the last page here how you want your steering hardware to work. So, if you don't have an extra piece of hardware assigned as a tiller, then you want to go to rudder only. If you have an extra piece of hardware, then you can go to rudder plus tiller. And this was actually a very good demonstration as to why you should check this one. The 737-600 is its own product, so it's not going to take over your settings from the 700. You will have to make separate settings in the 600 than you did in the 700. So it is very much recommended to check this one out, guys. The same applies, of course, to all the other options that you have in the airplane. You will want to at least once have a look into your general options and go for what you think you want changed on your personal aircraft. Right, we're going over for runway 19 right, and we're going to do a complete VNAV takeoff to show you how that one's working. And I've actually found a very handy tip there below my VNAV takeoff tutorial video from somebody who taught me this. Basically, if you're using VNAV in the 737 for your takeoff, it is going to give you an acceleration straight towards either a flap speed limit if you are taking off with flaps greater than 5, or straight away towards 250 knots. And what that guy said is, hey, just put a flap speed limit at 3,000 feet above the airport, and then put a 250 as the target speed, and that way you can actually very easily make your VNAV follow the profile that you are supposed to fly with the NADP2. I found that one really handy, going to try it out on today's video. And of course, this being a government-controlled company, we are going to use all of those lovely systems that Boeing has designed. Here we are. Alright, we are clear on the left, and we are clear on the right over there. The wind is just light and variable. Okay then, short 20-minute flight, off we go. Stabilized, set takeoff thrust. Takeoff thrust set, indications normal. Note that acceleration, 80 knots. V1, rotate. Now I have to rotate a little bit harder here, otherwise we'll just get too fast. Alright, gear up. With a positive rate of climb. This is what I meant, guys. The acceleration is just tremendous on this airplane. We'll put the autopilot on here. So, bug up. Look at that, 5,000 feet a minute. Reducing climb thrust now, pitch is coming down. Let's start accelerating. A little bit turbulent, it seems. But I would expect that over the desert. It was 32 degrees downstairs already, so it's probably going to be quite a bit, quite some thermals over here. So, flaps up. And here we are. Boy, that's the runway we just took up on. You see where the term pocket rocket comes from? So, flaps up, no lights, off the takeoff checklist. Off the takeoff checklist complete. You will notice that the airplane will tend to slightly overspeed, and that is actually to be expected. Because VNAV is, or the autopilot overall, is trying to make things really smooth for the passengers and to reduce the G loading. And with the amount of power that we have on the 600 engines, that thing is just going to skyrocket. So we're passing 100, so let's actually go back to econ speed now and start our acceleration. At the same moment, we can also complete our 10 checks, release our passengers. And here we go, off to the hidden area, or the forbidden area. By the way, if one of you guys is watching this while I'm recording, if you are taking out the Dark Star and try to intercept me, you're gonna win a free copy. But this only goes while I'm recording this, okay? So, rate of climb is slowly deteriorating, just around 4,000 feet a minute now. But even though we are lightweight at the moment, we have only about 42 highly classified people on board. Even though we are at a rather light weight, even when you're at an, let's call it normal rate, so like 120 passengers-ish, your aircraft is still going to get you up to level 400 in like 15 minutes. So that's an amazing performance for a civil airliner. I'll actually have to start limiting our rate of climb here now. Vertical speeds. $200 is going to be our cruise level already, since it's such a short flight. And once we're up in cruise level, I'm going to show you a little bit more of the 600 itself. That's 2 to go. Alright, set standard. Passing level 185, climbing flight level 200. And that's one to go there. Vertical speed, 1000 feet a minute. And here we are, alt acquire, VNAV. And you can see it is slightly turbulent, so plane still has a little bit of a problem capturing the altitude there. But that is gonna still get reworked, so don't worry about that one yet. Alright, reaching a cruise level here. In how many minutes did it take? 6 minutes, flight level 200 in our pocket rocket. Right, so a couple of words about the 737-600. As said, it's been designed as a follow-up to the 737-500. However, it's not actually been quite as successful. There have only been like 70 or so sold from Boeing. And the aircraft is shortened by approximately 2.5 meters from the 737-700, so it is not actually that much shorter. And typical configurations in a 2-class seating would be 108, and in a 1-class it would be 123 passengers. Now, as said, most airlines are slowly phasing out their 600s. So we have seen them, for example, in a Tunis Air in Scandinavian, but also a few American operators have them on file. And actually the aircraft you see just in front of us is a former Air China aircraft. And then when the US Defense Department set up Janet, they bought the whole fleet of China Airlines. Or of Air China, sorry. I gotta be careful with these. So many similar sounding airlines by the names. Anyway, as said, PMDG has covered the complete set of operators of the 737-600. The model itself is equal to the 700 model, as said, with the specialties of the 600, so it's quite a bit shorter. Looking just as good, and that's especially if you have not owned the 700 previously. What some people are intending the 600 for is like the entry level to the PMDG market. Now, why is that? That is because the 600 is going to come at a price of $49.99. At least that's what the previews say. I'm recording this video obviously prior to the release. So, what's been said is a large amount of the people in Microsoft Flight Simulator are not actually the hardcore simmers that many of you think are the main audience. Now, of course they are the main audience, but there is also a large market of people who are not so experienced and who want to get into the range of high fidelity products but don't want to spend $70 for it. And that is somewhat what I personally expect the 600 to be, like the entry-level aircraft there for trying out a commercial airliner, but at this point in price. After all, the 737-600 is going to be the lowest priced high-fidelity aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And you have to keep in mind, this is not an expansion to the 700, but this is its own separate product. So, we are slowly approaching our exit tango point over here that we can see on our navigational display. And that's basically where we change over from our call sign. So right now we're flying as a Janet 736, and overflying that point and being transferred to Groom Lake Control, we then actually change our call sign. The way they do it in real life here is they just add 15 to the number, so we'd become fancy military call sign 751. And actually, forget about that 7, just fancy military call sign 51. Now, can that be coincidence? 51? From Boeing 737-600, which is how I chose my initial call sign? Going into Area 51? What's going on here? Alright, let's have a quick look at our approach. Obviously, there are no charts available for Area 51, but there is some FMC data, as you can see over here. So, we'll actually do everything right from the FMC. We're going over the VOR here, and that's taking us into a teardrop, going back towards the final approach, which we are going to enter over here. Let's quickly select our landing flaps. It's going to be flap 30 landing, frequency 111.3 and 111.3. Course of 325. And let's go here and here onto a course of 325. Alright, we don't have a minimum. In fact, we don't even have a published elevation of our destination. So I'll just take it from the runway 32 over here. That's plus 50 feet, so 4,494 feet. We've actually got to set that one up here. So 4,500, and for the minimum I'm just going to cheat and I'll take the radio minimums. Set that one 200 feet, but looking outside we're probably going to be visual all the time. Alright, so 2995, the altimeter setting. Then let's quickly talk about the changes that we have in VNAV. Basically, the previous VNAV model was always trying to decelerate the airplane until the FMC speed restriction of VREF plus 5, so 119 knots over here. And it would use a 1 degree descent path for that. Now, that was not 100% correct, so it's been corrected now with the latest release and the new VNAV module. And the way it's working now is that it is using a 1 degree descent path from the deceleration point. Here we go. A 1 degree descent path from the deceleration point until it reaches the flap up speed. And at the flaps up speed, it is now very important that you actually select your landing flap. That you actually select your first flap setting, or the one corresponding to the Bach speed that you're at. And the reason for that is, once it reaches the up speed, in order to achieve a continuous descent approach, VNAV is pitching down again to about a 2.6 degree slope. And that 2.6 degree slope is too steep for the airplane to maintain at the minimum clean speed in clean configuration. So you'll actually have to extend your flaps, otherwise you are going to pick up speed again. Alright, we're reaching our descent over here, so let's select our altitude down, something lower. Also use auto brakes 3 for this one. I've not made any changes to the VNAV descent page here, however the forecast page has been put in from our SimRead flight plan. We do expect some very high temperatures over in Area 51, after all, it's right in Death Valley, isn't it? So, leaving our cruise level here. What you will notice as well in the descent is that due to the lower weight of the 737-600, the 600 actually features less energy, which makes it easier to slow down. That's something very important that you are going to notice on the approach. The 600 is much easier to slow down than the 700, or especially later on the 800 and the 900. Alright, here we are coming in. The white area is see over there. That's gotta be Groom Lake. That famous one. Alright, passing the transition altitudes, altimeter 2995. Passing 17.2, descending 1100, no flags, no altimeter set. And there we are, that's our destination. Area 51. Now, due to the light weight of the 600, and due to the fact that it doesn't have as much energy, this is actually really a fun airplane to fly manually as well. That's because you don't have to worry as much about your energy compensation, freeing up a little bit of mental capacity in order just to, don't want to say enjoy, but freeing up a bit of mental capacity for that hand flying. By the way, do I have to say that I'm pretty amazed that we actually have a scenery for Area 51 in Microsoft Flight Simulator? The one I'm using up here is a freeware from flightsim.to. I'm going to link that one in the video description, provided that I actually think of doing it. But anyway, you can find it on flightsim.to if you just search for Area 51. Actually, the coverage name is Homey Airport, with the codes Kilo X-Ray Tango Alpha. But obviously the expert among us know which kind of UFOs and aliens they have down here, right? Oh boy, saying all this, I slowly start getting afraid that I might not get my next background reliability check for real aviation here. Then we'll let VNAV do all the work for us, just set it down to 7,000 feet-ish. We have a constraint here, yeah, 5,700 from the lax page, so that's what we'll use. We'll let VNAV do all the work for us, after all that's what it's built for. See the passengers down. Now be aware that we're coming in pretty fast over here. The airport's located at 4,500 feet elevation, so slowing down at level 100 is rather late. But then again, we're here for the fun of it, aren't we? After all, we want to see what the new VNAV model can do as well. By the way, looking at that speed, you will notice something on the magenta line over here. That is a small overshoot through the Alpha Fox 003 point. And that is actually something that you as a pilot have to take care of. The speed that the airplane is calculating here is quite a bit too fast, so let's get out some speed brake to help the airplane slow down to a more appropriate speed, to help it catch that turn. But the good news is, even if you forget about doing these changes manually, the new LNAV system is going to take care of it for you. So we are going to follow that route line, and let's just watch and see what's gonna happen. So here we are, inbound to waypoint 003. For now it's following that overshooting line, and now that it's sequenced the waypoint, it is going to turn right back on track. So even though you might not be flying 100% what you are used to, you will still be brought right back on track by the new LNAV system. And of course, it would have been my job as a pilot to prevent that overshoot in first place by inserting a speed constraint over at that waypoint so that the airplane slows down until the routing that you see drawn no longer overshoots. And that's something that you as a pilot have to do. And that's the same in the real airplane as it is in the PMDG. When the routing overshoots, you have to do something about it, not the computer. Alright, let's go flap 1. You will notice that we're shortly going to reach the area where VNAV is going to start a steeper descent once again. So, flap 1 is out. Of course, we're still following the path to the point where it predicted that flap 1 would be out. And now we're passing it, and now you can see how it's going into a steeper descent once again. And if we did not have the flaps out right now, our speed would be increasing again. And that's the same that would happen in the real 737. Let's go straight to flap 5 to give it a bit more drag over here. Now the buck is going to the 2 speed and now to the 5 speed. So, I don't see any dark stars yet. Guys, you've got to push it if you want that free copy. I mean it. So, let's start our final turn. We'll arm the approach as well. We have Localizer capture already. And glide slope capture as well. So, we've got the runway heading 325 set, and the missed approach altitude, we'll just take it straight from the FMC, 11,200 is set as well. We do have some tailwind. Approach speed is rather high. The runway is still like 9 miles out, so we'll just let it fly in like this right now. Localizer capture mode has been improved quite a bit from steep angle as well. You can see it right now that it's pretty much coming in quite accurately, even though it did have a small wings level phase, but that same could happen in the real 737 as well. So it is most certainly not going to overshoot the Localizer anymore. This, by the way, used to be a problem with the real 737 as well. Like 3 years ago, there has been a flight control computer revision that would cause these overshoots, and then Boeing has corrected it in a further update. And that update is basically what's being simulated now. Alright, still going really fast. Do note this is a hot and high airport, and if you haven't seen it yet, have a look at my videos explaining approaches on hot and high conditions. So let's go gear down and flaps 15. And flaps 30. VREF plus 5. Do note, by the way, the very slow approach speeds of the 600, first of all, is something that you should notify an air traffic controller about when you are flying online. Otherwise, they might be putting other traffic just too close to you. But those speeds actually enable you to go into runways that you can only dream of in the larger 737 models.
1,000.
So, 1,000 is checked. So I'll stop talking for now, and we'll just fly this airplane down. Enjoy ourselves, have a little bit of fun. As I told you, the 600 is a great plane to fly manually. In turbulence, of course, things will hit you, because you will just not have so much energy, so the turbulence is really going to throw you around. But that's to be expected with an airplane as lightweight as this one. Especially seeing the big wing that we have on it. That can lift so much more weight. Alright, ILS frequencies on final approach are always a little bit of a thing in flight simulator, so I'm actually going to detune the ILS now, so that we don't get a glide slope warning here. But basically, if you put the 3-degree line of the HUD straight onto the aiming point, then that's exactly how to get to your preferred positions. So, continue. And that is speed brakes up, thruster is normal, in idle. 80 knots, manual brakes. Right, we've still got quite a bit to roll, so we'll stow the spoilers and the reversers. Stopping is assured on this long runway. And that's our first exit, that's the one we want to take. So, 28 minutes from Las Vegas. And I'm not allowed to tell you where we just landed. I want you guys to enjoy the 600 when you get it, and not to have to kill you because I told you. Alright, here we are. Let's clean the plane up real quick. Sometimes you can just reset that speed using the level change button. It really makes flying this a little bit easier. One of those small quality of life things that PMDG has simulated that is actually not documented anywhere in the Boeing manuals. Right, crossing the other runway. No dark star to either side. Of course, we don't have taxi charts, so we've just got to find our way here. But I think I can make some company traffic out over there. So let's go and park right next to them. So one thing for you to notice when you're taxiing the 737-600, that's going to become especially important when we're pulling up into our gate over there, is the distance between the nose wheel and the main wheel is quite a bit less than it is on the 700. And that's going to be an even bigger difference once the 8 and 900s are out, and once you can actually hop between the different aircraft types. And that is due to the different length of the nose wheel. When you are parking the 600 on a parking line that's made for 7 or 800, it's getting worse the longer the airplane type in question is, then when you are doing a turn out from your gate, your nose wheel is going to give you a much tighter turning distance, which in turn is going to give you quite a further range that your wingtips are going to travel, thus causing a great risk of wingtip collision with some objects on the ground. So that's something you have to be really careful about when you are taxiing the 600. The same applies to taxiing the 700 when you're used to an 800, by the way, but that's still for the future. So make sure that you are carefully following those taxi lines over here and don't overshoot too much. Right, we've got our ground staff here. And stop. Okay, brake set. Number 2 is shut down. We'll wait for the APU. And 3, 2, 1, here it is. So that's both engines shut down. You know the rest of the drill. So that's it. Our first flight in the PMDG Boeing 737-600. Now let's recap real quick. Of course, this recap is gonna be a little bit biased because being in the technical team and a technical advisor, I am not 100% neutral being related into this project. So, the 737-600 is a slightly shorter version of the 700. New features in this one mainly is the new LNAV system, which on the same day is coming to the 700 via an update as well. A new VNAV system, however, that's still gonna get a little bit fine-tuning, but it is doing a very good job already. And of course, we have this little lovely pocket rocket skyrocketing up 20,000 feet within 6 minutes and 40,000 feet within about 15, even at higher takeoff weights. I would like to thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of the 600 in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? I know some of you will dislike it just because it's not an 800, so don't worry, the 800 is gonna come, and it is gonna be good. So for now, I'd like to thank you very much for joining. Hope that you have enjoyed this one. Leave a comment, leave a like to the video if you did. If you really loved it, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. And finally, if you haven't done so yet, consider subscribing to the channel for more interesting information about the 737 NG, tutorials on the aircraft, and some insights from a real airline pilot. Until then, thank you very much for joining, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.